So thank you for coming to an evening with great female authors of the Twin Ports. If you would like to take a seat, we will be getting started with our panel. Our panel tonight, we have three authors. Lucy Amundsen, author of Locally Laid, How We Build a Plucky Industry-Changing Egg Farm from Scratch, and winner of 2016 Midwest Booksellers' Choice Award. Julie Gard, author of Scrap, on Louise Nevelson, and winner of the UW Superior Scholarly Activity Award. And Linda LeGrand Grover, author of
Annika Amazing.
Lagarde. Annika Amazing. I knew I was going to mess that up. I'm sorry. I tried.
Oh, no,
I
that's
tried real
fine.
hard. Annika Amazing, Seasons of an Ojibwe Year, and 2008 Native Writers Circle Award winner, among many others. Thank you, ladies, for taking time out of your schedules to be here tonight. And without further ado, we'll get into the questions. So our first question is for all of you. When and why did you guys start writing?
I started writing things when I was a little girl, but I didn't hang on to my stuff until much, much later. And I don't even know when that was, but I used to just kind of not pay attention, and it just kind of, the pieces of paper just disappeared. So I've been writing for a long time, but my first book was published in 2009. So I didn't send stuff out to try to get it published for a long time because I knew that it just was not publishable kinds of stuff yet. But now I've been doing a lot in the last 10 years especially.
I think I've always written to kind of make sense of what I'm feeling at a time, so I can try to process things. I was in my young 20s when This American Life, well, now it's a podcast, but it was just a NPR show at the time, came out, and I just saw this venue for nonfiction writing that was fun and playful and informative, and I got completely inspired and had that goal in mind of being on This American Life.
Let's see, I would say I wrote from a young age. I've always liked to write poetry and stories and all of that. And I actually thought, oh, maybe I'll do something really different in college, like I'll be an anthropology major or a philosophy major, or, just branch out. And I ended up being an English major, which is what I would have told you in like third grade I would have been. So, so I guess I've kind of, that's been my main way of mode of self-expression for a long time.
Our next question is for Julie. What did you want to accomplish with Scrap?
For it, and then eventually what I wanted to accomplish was, first of all, with writing about visual art, to like somehow capture the art, like, which you can't, it's an impossible goal, but to like recreate it in words as best as you can. So that was what I wanted to accomplish. And then eventually, once I started writing about her life and kind of drawing some connections with my own life, to figure some things out about motherhood and art making.
And then this one is for all of you. What's it like to be a local author?
Well, I would say this is a really good community to be a writer in. So I enjoy that, just getting to learn from and meet with wonderful people like these two other writers here, and it's really nice on like a supportive, like social level, and then also genuinely in terms of what other people are writing.
I would agree with that, and it is, it is fun that every once in a while I do a lot of talking on this book. So I go do presentations, or I will, sometimes someone will call and be like, you don't know me, but will you come to my book club? And I'm like, do you have wine? And I show up to their book club, and it's really nice to have people feel like they appreciate it or connected with the story. So that's really lovely to have.
When I come out of my hole every once in a while, it's just really nice to talk with other authors. I love when people want to talk to me about their stuff. And people write and they write different things that you don't really know. You don't know what's going on in their minds and their lives and stuff. I was just talking to a very young reporter, probably maybe 2 years older than everybody here, who is also working on a memoir. And he just happened to mention that, and we got off on talking about different things we do. And so yes, it is a wonderful thing.
Right, and this is one for all of you. How does motherhood impact your writing career?
I mean, your kids are everything. I mean, I don't know if your parents have ever said this to you, but they really are. And so they're great. I can't even say it's a motivator. It is a tremendous gift that you get in life, to have children or to be around children and young people. And I don't know, I don't know. I would say I think it kind of energizes what you're doing in your writing too, even if they have nothing to do with what you're writing.
But I am careful to write respectfully of them, kind of forecasting ahead, and realizing that the entire memoir book, even parts they're not in, is really about their experience too, and trying to think about what that is in the future for them. So maybe in some ways I'm a little more cautious than I would be otherwise.
Yeah, well, I think there's that question maybe if your kids find their way into your work, like what's their story to tell and what's your part of their story to tell, like where your stories overlap. So I try to be conscious of that with my daughter, like, because she has a pretty epic story if she wants to tell it someday, being born in Russia, living there till she was 9, moving to the US, all these things she's done and experienced and survived in some ways. And
Right. And this next one's for Linda. With all your written success, what piece was the most difficult to write?
My last fiction book, it just came out like 2 weeks ago, and it is kind of like, it's my third fiction work to come out, and it's like part 3, so they all actually do fit together. But this one was really, really hard because it had to do with a missing Native woman and the effects on her children and on her family and community. And it was much harder to do than I thought it would be. But at the same time, I started writing about the foster care system, and then it just kind of the story moved itself into a missing woman who we don't see a whole lot in the book. And it was, it really took a lot. Ordinarily when I'm writing, I'm just kind of sitting at the computer and in front of the TV, on the couch.
Really?
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, and just kind of but this was, and I still did that, but my fingers were heavier, feeling good, because it really was very hard. And I'm glad that I did it, but it was I'm feeling a little wiped out after the experience, but I'll get better.
This next one is for all of you. What is the most important thing to consider when writing a book?
That's a very broad question.
yeah, it's an interesting question.
Well, I mean, like to aspiring writers, or I guess writers in the classroom, like what would you say for them they should consider when they're writing their book?
Maybe first to figure out if the project is a book, because there's a full-length book is one thing, and then sometimes there are essays that become a book, or poems that become a book, or short stories that become a book. So, so that a book can be many different things, or a writing project can be many different things, and maybe to consider that your correct form, or the form that's meant to be for a certain project could be all different things.
To write a book is to spend a lot of time with a singular subject, and I feel like a manuscript becomes like a little buddy, and you're with your little buddy all the time, and sometimes your little buddy is super annoying, and other times you're so you're sad that the time allotment is up and you have to like get your kids up and go to work. So it has to be a subject that you want to spend maybe a year and a half with.
My advice would be to think about what you want to do and what you want to do with it, and also to know that sometimes things change, and that what you're working on may change. Just like my last book, where it took quite a L-shaped, all of a sudden it was going somewhere else. But to understand that, and to be easy on yourself, and to understand that perhaps the piece has a life of its own, and sometimes we are only the conduit for something.
And this question is for Lucy. What do you think are the most crucial skills for building and marketing a brand or business in your experience from doing this with Locally Laid?
And it's about really understanding why you're doing a business, and getting down to this idea of what are your passions behind the business, and letting people know those passions, because you're not so much just selling a product. I'm not just selling an egg. I'm selling an idea of how a farm can be sustainable, how livestock can be treated well. I'm probably painting some bucolic pictures of me out with my gingham apron, feeding chickens. But just this idea, so you're selling also an idea, and keeping that in mind, that you are not just nourishing people with your product, you're kind of nourishing their imagination. And when you think of it that way, you have a whole other palette to work with than other than how am I going to talk to people about eggs?
So the room is filled with people who've read your books. And there are also visitors who here may have questions. Can we open the floor to some questions from students?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Questions, thoughts, responses?
So for all three of you, in regards to like your writing careers, what would you say is like your proudest moment?
I got a call and I did a 3-hour interview with This American Life, which was my big dream when I was like 20 years old. They haven't aired it, but I was super jazz hands about it, because I had set that as a goal when I just was a nascent writer, just wanting to get that out there, because I so admire their style of storytelling. And I literally sent them a slush pile query, and they pulled me out of the slush pile and called. So that was it was really fun. It'd be more fun if they aired it, but it's still fun. Still fun.
Probably because it had just been a dream of mine to publish a book for a long time. And so when my book Home Studies came out, and just like holding that and kind of like, oh, okay, anything after this is just like icing on the cake, And so that was probably the moment.
A great moment would be when I got my first box of books, that FedEx brought, because in a lot of book contracts you get 10 books for free, and so the box arrived, and it was really something. Even though I wasn't actually there, my husband called me very irritated because it was sitting on the porch in the rain, and can I open it? And I said, yes, you can open it, because he was afraid it might have turned to liquid or something. I don't know. So, but that was, so I was at a conference out of town, and he called to tell me it was there, and he was very, very concerned about it melting away and not being real at all. So,
when writing memoirs, how did you guys, or this is for all of you, how did you decide what to include in the memoirs and what not to include?
Well, what is advancing the story? Because even though, you don't want it to be like a court reporter scene of everything that happened. So you do have a narrative arc, even though it's true life. And you're like, what's pushing that forward? What's interesting? I had a mantra every time when I was doing like the 3rd or 4th edit. Like, what exactly am I trying to say here? Does having this person in this further that or not?
So, but I'm conscious of, I'm always very conscious of people finding themselves in what I write, seeing themselves in what I write. It's, and I'm careful about that, I guess.
So memoir. So I don't directly write memoir, but I can definitely think, like in my poetry, there's a lot of personal experience and stuff like that. And I would say that the kind of in this talk of like, what do you include about people and not wanting to hurt anyone's feelings, or I was working on this project that basically involved like eavesdropping. And I
The
just
Creeper Project.
The Creeper Project, and it did. I was like, oh, it's kind of about surveillance, and that's sort of like an interesting topic, and it's complicated. But the pieces that I love the most, I found I don't think ever share, because I basically heard a lot. I mean, they were in a coffee shop in a public place, like dramatic monologues from a couple people, and I feel like they're really pretty good prose poems, and the cadence of the person's talk and what they said, and I maybe move some things around, but I just realized like I need to either find them and ask them permission or not even use this because it's not fair to use it, really.
Otherwise, let's give first our host a bit of applause.